So good day, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. This is one session I wish was really open, so everyone, especially beauty entrepreneurs, would learn from it. We have people who come up saying they want to start businesses, which is lovely. You know, when you talk to them, you hear, I am passionate. I love the industry. I don't like the service I'm getting. But the reality of running a business is what, brings the first culture shock. Because it's easy to go to someone's business and criticize and say things like, oh, they're not doing very well. And your alternative or option is, how about I start so I'll fix those problems? And that's when you realize that it's not as easy as it looks. And that brings me to today's event. Real time, I actually experienced a business owner who literally, I think at this point, is at the verge of quitting because she was just unable to deliver a service, not because she didn't have the expertise, but because systems failed her. And above all, how do you guys manage with your Lagos traffic? I think so you just see that there's a lot that your entrepreneur suffers here. And I think that is what I'm going to talk about today. Before you leave this room, I want you to pick any of these objectives that you think might be the one thing. Like I say to anybody who attends a program, there should be one thing you tell yourself that I should leave here with, because we try as much as we can to cover every aspect of the business. We're about to have, okay, thank you. We're about to have a masterclass that normally would take about 3 to 6 months to get you to really have the in-depth knowledge of what you need. And we are going to cover that in about 30 minutes. So I would want you to pick one thing and work with it. But before I start, just by a show of hands, if I ask what the most, the worst challenge you have as a business owner between getting clients and staff management, which would you pick? One more time, get your client or the staff. So that seems to be a major problem here. And we've agreed both the old and the new businesses have the same problem. So before we start talking about our team, let's even look inward, yourself as a business owner. So the first thing I always ask people, I do consulting. So I always ask, when someone meets you and says, oh, I want to own a business, and I ask why. The why is always I am passionate, or I want to get better services, so I think, I should do this. And sometimes you hear people say, oh, I do this, and people have told me that I should open this business. So the first thing we're going to look at now is, are you supposed to own a business? That's the first thing. Then next, we're going to look at what assumptions about running a business, the assumptions you may actually have wrong. And also, we're going to look at the personalities that are required to run a sustainable business. We're going to look at a business life circle, why businesses fail. We're going to talk about it. And we're also going to look and understand if you're actually working on or in your business. Then we're going to look at what your business development processes should be. Then we look at the franchise prototype model and actions that you can take. Now, everything I've put out here is so amazing that it was actually covered in the panel session. So you're going to have a breakdown of everything that has been discussed in the panel session. And when you hear these things come from different business owners who have been in the industry for a while, you realize that these systems actually work, and that is what systems are all about. All right, so the first question here is, why are you supposed to own a business? So the first thing I tell business owners whether you're existing or you're about to start, is that you own a business. You see, when people come with titles, it's like, oh, CEO. I am a CEO. There seems to be a ring to that, I'm a CEO. But what we failed, or sometimes people say I'm an entrepreneur, so that's the word you hear most times. And as much as we use the word, right, we should also understand the responsibility that comes with it. That also helps you with mapping out what you do. As a technician or an entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur, first off, you have a clear vision about what this whole idea is. So we're going to get to a point where we actually talk about your purpose. There's a process I normally have with people whenever we're talking about starting a business. That's where I put them through a 360 roadmap. So we look at the vision, we look at the purpose, we look at the roadmap. Then we now look at the reality of what you're about to do. And I always ask people to do this before they spend the first naira. Because a lot of you, your idea of owning a good or a better business is making a place look aesthetically beautiful. So you see that heavy investment. Oh, I just got a place here. The major investment they are talking about is how they want the place to look as against the value they're about to give and how that is going to turn out. Then we also have the ones who actually know and own the skills. And they tell themselves after a while, they're like, wait a minute, I have studied, I know the skill very well, or I have worked, and I think it's time to start the business. So whether you are a fresh horn starting, or you are someone who actually knows the skill, which is the technician, right? Whether you fall into these categories, it doesn't make you an entrepreneur. So that's the first thing we need to know when it comes to being ready for a business. That you know the skill does not mean you should start the business. That you have the fund to finance it does not also mean you should start the business. So that is understanding, first of all, if you should own a business or not. Then, at what point, Okay. So, at what point do you now decide as someone who is skilled? So when I say skilled, I am talking about that person who is good at either of their beauty services, whether you're the makeup artist that everybody loves or you're the beautician, the cosmetologist, any of these skills. So if you are this person and literally probably at your current workspace or before you started, everybody was coming to that business because of you. We always have that mindset that, okay, it's time for me to start my business. So the question or what you should know is that you know the skill, like I said before, does not mean you should open the business. I tell people that you're a good doctor does not mean you can run the business of medicine. Or that you're a good lawyer does not mean you can run the business of law. These are two different things, but somehow we seem to forget that when it comes to beauty business. And beauty business, because it's more like a low-hanging opportunity, there are not much requirements. Everybody is always willing to start. So first off, knowing that the fact that understand the skill does not mean you should open. And also understanding that I understand the fact that I do not know how to run a business, but I still want to open this business. Now, this is another mindset. So that's why I tell business owners, before you start, have a mental reorientation. A lot of people reach out to me, and like I said, the first thing they tell you is, I want to start a beauty business. By the time you try to talk them through the process, some just get impatient. It's a Nigerian thing. I've told her maybe she doesn't want, I get that a lot. People think I don't want to earn because I'm a consultant. So they just assume that, okay, maybe she's not interested in helping me. In fact, someone went as far as saying that, it's like you have people you want to run this business and you have people you just don't want to run it. But understanding whether you have the capacity to go through the journey is always important and paramount for me. And like I said when I started, at the end of this session, some of you may really need to rethink your positions. You may really need to rethink. Now, it may not mean that you're going to shut down, but you might start looking for other options, and that options might be partnership. We have struggled a lot around it. We still struggle around it, but there are so many gray areas around it. But I think if there's one thing you've learned from the panel session is a lot of learning, information, knowledge might help. Because the truth is, where you stand currently, you may not stand a chance if you continue alone. And I tell people that it makes sense to own 1% of something than have 100% of nothing. So open your mind, right, to what we're going to talk about and decide or determine where you fit in if you really want that business to grow. So I am breaking down the 3 personalities that you must first of all understand before we even start talking about the staff. Because you need to know where you fall in here before you talk about who to hire. Now let me go to the part that I always get. Do you hire? And I ask, what systems do you already have in place as a business? And people are telling you, I just need staff. And I say somewhere like Nigeria, where we do not have any standard training school, that is a major mistake. Not having a system, a procedure that comes first of all with even hiring. And I'm glad it was touched during that session. But before you talk about hiring, knowing who to hire or how, you must first of all know who you are. The incident I had this morning, the lady is a business owner, but she is a technician. So when I booked her services, she didn't think as an entrepreneur, because she's a doer, she's a technician, she thought she had to be the one to offer the service. And like I said, unfortunately, situation happened. She did not only lose a client, but now she's probably also blaming her staff, because that was, this thing we do when something goes wrong, we try to get all emotional. I was stuck in traffic. My staff didn't show up. It is the staff. But like I say, understanding who you are, your strengths and your weaknesses would help you know who to hire and what to look out for in a person. In a situation where you're hands-on in your business, you're a doer. So it means that you may eventually become an entrepreneur, which is you have a long vision about this business. So when you're a technician, right, and you are just caught up with the fact that I have this business. I am very good at this business. Right now, I am that business owner that everybody's looking out for. The reason you burn out and you start having a problem after 2 to 3 years is because the entrepreneurial vision is not there. There is no roadmap. There is no clarity about where this is going to go in 5 years. So that limits you to whatever skills you have currently. And that is what causes the burn down. That's where you hear a business owner telling you, I can't train my staff because they will go. That is where you hear a business owner telling you that I've just, however they want to do it, let them do it, but I just have to be in the business. That is because you are actually a technician, but you have not evolved into being an entrepreneur. So for everyone seated here, right, ask yourself, this business, if they were to give an award, hypothetically, if they were to give an award and these awards were special awards, what will you be known for? What will they say you are? If you can answer that question seated here and now, then it means you have a vision. So it's not, I want to be the best salon, I want to be the best spa, I want to own the best business. No. Seated here, right here and now, and this cuts across every department, every business. If they were to give specialized awards, what will your genre be? What will they say you are? That is a vision. And when everyone here was talking about brand ethos, talking about a brand vision, that is what they have figured out. When we talk about this niche, they might say there are 2,000 beauty businesses, but when we talk about hair care, when we talk about hair loss, this is the person we're looking at. When we're talking about virgin hair management, they can say anything, but this is the first person who comes out. So if you haven't figured that out about your business, you're just a doer and you're going to suffer burnout. Now, let me move to the entrepreneur. Now, the entrepreneur is, am I the one controlling this? Okay. Okay, let me talk about the entrepreneur. Now, the entrepreneur is the one who has a vision. But the thing people miss about being entrepreneurs is it's always the big picture. You have the big picture. The entrepreneur rarely has time to coordinate the details. So you can be a technician who is also an entrepreneur. You have the big vision. You want to have 10 branches. So you actually have figured out where this business is going, and you have a process with which you want to go through it. But being an entrepreneur does not make you a good business owner. And most times, business owners who struggle fall within these two spaces where you're either the entrepreneur and the technician. And that brings us to the most important part, which is the manager. We have people, very few people, who either by design or by training have become managers and organizers. And I can tell you for free, I've been consulting in this industry for almost 18 years now. The businesses that have succeeded, the business owners that have gone through processes, the business owners that have been able to weather the storm are people who have learned how to become managers or now understand how to hire managers. And I'll tell you also one thing I've noticed. The people who are able to pick that information are people who have worked in structured environment. So another thing I would tell you, if you're less than 3 years in business, drop that CEO cap. Drop that I own the business cap. And this is real time. Like I said, this is a training not just on the business, but it's a mental training, it's a mindset training, and you need to understand it. Some of you may need to go and work for a business that is really structured to even understand what a business is. You see this thing of, I want to own my business, I want to own my business. That's the reason you don't even have a business. Some of you have jobs that are draining you. You have jobs that are draining you, and that's what you're calling a business. If it's draining you, it's not a business. That's a job. If you wake up stressed that you need to go to work, it's a job. So some of you may need to look for businesses that are structured and do what we call internship or apprenticeship. Learn structure. You may know the skill, but learn the structure. So when you go back, you know who the manager is in terms of not position, which is what you people hire. And sometimes when I look at the job descriptions people put out for managers, it's so funny. Must have experience. Who train them? Who they train them? So you must know what your business wants. When you're talking about a manager, the job of a manager differs by business, by brand, and by location. So you can't tell me like what we call the people we call managers in Abuja, they can't survive here in Lagos. And vice versa for some of them. So understanding that when you get this position, before you talk about these positions, right, you have a clear understanding of how to create these positions and how to make them work. And that is another thing you need to decide sitting here today. Ask yourself, which part of this job, what part of my business do I need help with or do I need help in? When you figure it out, then ask yourself, do I even know the requirements? Because we bring up positions, but we really don't have a clear job description about what those positions are. So that is another thing you need to figure out. Now let's talk about your business life circle. Sorry, every one of this slide is a whole program that runs on its own. So I'm just trying to do a quick, breakdown of how your mind should start thinking. Yes. So when we look at your infancy level, that is probably when you're starting, when you can actually micromanage, which is good. So at this point, you are CEO, you are CFO, you are content creator, you're gatesman. It's easy to manage. And that period, because it is your vision, it is easy for you to put things the way you want. So it's always easy. But you see, the moment that business starts growing, and this is where most people are. So when I hear people talking about systems, talking about staff issues, you know that you're probably becoming an adolescent. And when you're an adolescent and you're still controlling this is where your problems start. Because at this point, you shouldn't be focused on the business. Sorry, in the business. You should be on the business. This is where you're not talking about manager. My clients are not, and I don't know how, honestly, this is an honest question. I don't know how people take pride in saying, if my customers come, if I'm not there, nobody takes the service. You're suffering. Like, for real, you're suffering. If I'm not there, that means you haven't evolved. And unfortunately, this is why most people don't grow past here. So your circle is always from here, you go down, because you become overwhelmed. Then the next thing, you fire everybody, now goes back to infancy where it's still just you. Then you struggle again, you come up and you get stuck at adolescence. And before you know it, you go back again. Then at a point, you just tell people, beauty business does not work. When you see someone who has a successful business, the next thing you say, they won't tell you what they are doing. They have built systems and they know how to build and operate systems. So if you are at this phase in your business where you're still the one controlling everything, that's at infancy, start telling yourself, this is when I'm supposed to build structures, and I think I'm going to talk about how you build this structure. This structure we've been hearing about, I'm going to talk about it. Then when you get to the adolescence, if you have figured out and you've built that structure, now it helps you. So at this point, you're doing basic management. You're able to look at the business from a perspective. Now at adolescence, this is where you're focusing a lot on the training. You're focusing a lot on the feedback. You're focusing a lot on the systems that you have created. And when you hit maturity, that is when the business is running itself and all you're checking are the systems you have created. When you're having meeting with the different branch managers, and this is when people tell you, you're lucky with the staff you've hired. It's not luck. It's not luck. There are some people who have good staff, but it's not luck, trust me. What we call luck in business is someone's ability to harness talent and to grow them. So it is not luck, but somehow they have been able to figure out the circle and make it work for them. Okay. Do I need to explain this? From where we're coming from, your growth will always be stifled if everything is on you. If everything is on you, at your best, there is only as much as you can do. And do not, let me say this, I don't know if it's in the slide, but let me say this. Your staff are your bloodline. I know people have had bad experiences with staff, but when you look and check deeply, you would also see where you slacked as a business owner. When you ask people, you see this part of hiring, most people, that's where we get it wrong right from the door. You don't even know who you're hiring because all you're hiring is just skill-based. But you forget that your business goes beyond the skill. Skill, you can teach people. Character, you can't. So when you're hiring skill alone, a thief can be highly skilled. A very rude and unruly staff can be highly skilled. A conniving staff can be highly skilled. So the problem you are probably having as a business owner just might be centered around this. Not necessarily that, Nigerian, we just leave, when you hire abroad, if you don't have a system, human beings are always going to be human beings. So let's, have that at the back of our mind. So how do we know when we're in the business? No matter how much money you're making today, like some people tell you, I'm really successful, why my business is doing well. If one of the reasons someone can't be here today is because there are bookings that depend solely on them, you're in your business. If while you're here, that phone is buzzing left, right, and center, you're in that business. If any day you shut down, business shuts down, you're in your business. If the staff would only behave when you're there, you're in your business. Now, when we're looking at how to be on the business, we are looking at systems. And when we're talking about systems, like I said, I'm going to take time to break down basic systems. And probably before we leave here, you're all going to create just a basic template that you can use. And you now see how the others would run. So remember, the goal, anytime you see yourself in the business, any of these things I've stated, remember to tell yourself that I am not going to grow past the adolescent phase of this business. No matter how big my vision is, I can't grow past it because as long as you remain there, that's only as much as you can go. Okay. So let's look at the different ways to make this work. When we say find better ways, I think one of the speakers talked about how she creates systems. Let me tell you this. Remember this. If this is the only thing you take away from today's class, remember this. I need every one of you to think now how many staff you have. Ask yourself, how many staff do I have right now? And by their names, see if you can break down, write 5 things that they do. All your staff right now, 5 things that they do, as against 5 things that they are supposed to do. Then when you do that, you're going to see where you have probably replicated duties or where you did not even assign proper duties. So all that coming and shouting, are you daft? Are you stupid? I might be you. Because you did not clearly state everybody's responsibility. So the moment you're able to do that, the next phase of that business should be, do I need this? Do I need that? Then when you're done and you're able to streamline what those responsibilities are, take the people out and now put names, actual positions to those responsibilities. Because responsibilities should not be tied to a person. It should be tied to a position. That's the first thing you're going to do. Then secondly, ask yourself, these are the structures that I'm talking about now. I'm talking about structure. These structures, we hear structure, system. This is what it is. Secondly, when do we resume? We resume by 8 a.m. When do we close? 5 p.m. When we resume by 8 a.m., what are they supposed to do? What is the manager's first point of action? From 8 to 9 a.m., like this is the breakdown. From 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., from 10 to 11, all the way to 5, 6, 7 p.m. when they leave. If you haven't done that, well, that's why the manager is always confused. That's the system we're talking about. And you do that for every position. It has to be for every position. Because guess what? By the time you do all of this and you do the same thing with your standard for training, people say, oh, I can't train. Well, create your in-house training programs. What are your in-house training programs? How do you want them to be washing hair? How do you want them to start the process? If it's going to start by consultation, create a consultation template. Then how often are those trainings supposed to be? Are they going to be daily, weekly, monthly? Put it down. Because when you do those, now that becomes the system you give to the manager to manage. So the manager is not, you are not micromanaging everybody. You can show up by 3 p.m. because you have timed every activity. You can now call the manager by 3 p.m. and the manager knows that I should have covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 before 3 p.m. These are the systems we're talking about. And this cuts across every department. We talk about checklists. A lot of us do not even understand. When I say go to a structured system and work, you would make your businesses outlive you. I come from a structured system, and I see a lot of people, and I know why they are failing. It is not because you don't have the drive, it's because you yourself, you're indisciplined. Someone needs to tell you guys the truth. You want punctuality, you are always late. You're talking about financial accountability, but you take money from the business. You will call someone like me to set up a system, and you'll be the one to revoke the system. Today is the business owner that I am talking about. I have seen this, and I've spoken to my friends who are accountants and auditors. And they will always tell you that a good number of Nigerian businesses, and I'm not talking about just beauty businesses, they fail because of the level of indiscipline that the business owners execute. Then secondly, because of their intangible assets, their staff. A lot of you do not know how to manage your staff. And staff management is not understanding that before you have the right to demand excellence from someone, you should be excellent. Before you make a request and you ask someone, why have you not delivered on this? You should have created a system for them to deliver on. When we talk about our staff and the problem we have with the system, it is not like 50-50, we can split the blame, but most times I'll tell you the business owner is more to blame. Because you expect them to come and operate as you. Your level of reasoning is different, number one. You have more exposure than some of them. You're coming from accumulated, aggregated knowledge from programs like this that most of them have not seen. So expecting them to understand your vision at your level, technically, try. Really. Create system, like I'm talking about creating procedure. Now somebody will go and create their training manual and put, when a customer comes in, be courteous. And you expect people with probably, what do you call it? And you're telling them, they said you people are unruly. But I greet them now. That woman don't like us. So even up to the language you use for communication, even up to your systems, you must know that it is very important, and that's the structure we're talking about. So innovation, that I have talked about, at least I brushed on that in this conversation. So quantification is measuring your results. If you have step-by-step procedures, and I'm saying this, if you have step-by-step procedure on how you train the people who come in, two things are going to happen. The first time they show up during your probation period, which most of you don't have, what you do is the moment they come, can she braid? Can they do body scrub? Can they do facials? You eyeball them. And the next thing is, okay, fine, we're employing them. Then tomorrow, your client is coming. I don't know why we subject our clients to that. They pay for a service and you're giving them substandard services. One of the panelists said something about hiring her staff and having to train them for 6 months. Ideally, when you hire your team, you don't put them on your client. That is a major error a lot of you do. Because you don't even have in-house training systems. Let's run it on a budget. You bring them in, you don't put them on your client. You have to train them first before you send them to me, and you wonder why your clients are not coming back. You wonder why they are coming on social media to drag you. The times are hard. I can't pay for a service, and please, if you're amongst those people that say sorry, don't ever do that again. Sorry is not a business term. You should have known better. So have your mind on that. Quantification, if you create the systems I've talked about, create it at their level, you're able to quantify it and create checklists how you check them. Then, when you start a training, please make it consistent. If you say the training is going to be weekly, if you say your meeting with your staff is going to be weekly, please don't stop after 3 months, because I see that a lot. Oh, today, manager, step in for me. This person step in for me. That is what we've had over time, and that is why your systems haven't worked. Everything you've seen here, no matter how beautiful that idea is, no matter how measurable it is, if you're not consistent with following what has been created, then you will not have a business. Everything is going to be on paper, like you probably currently have now. Can someone help me with this? Okay. So everything will be on paper, and that probably will be where the business ends. So before you leave today, take just one service you offer. Create what we call a standard operating procedure. If it is hair services, consultation, what does consultation look like? Write it down. Then break it down to the level of the staff you have or the staff you intend to hire. Number 2, when they start the process, what is the customer service like? What should it be like? What is the main service, the pre, post, and follow-up? Break it down. Create that for one service. You can start today and subsequently create it for all your services. Now you're not looking for someone to come and train your staff. That's if you are a technician. But if you're an entrepreneur, you would need expertise. Get someone who knows the services to give you this system, then you create it to the standard and the level of your businesses. Then the next one is track one key metric today. When you create that SOP, even if it is the reporting system, I think it was, what's her name, Vera Cruz. She talked about daily reporting systems. If you can replicate that, start tracking and knowing what's happening in the business, I think that will help you. Then finally, dedicate 20% of your time to working on your business, not in your business. If you create these SOPs, you create a standard procedure, and you also create your meetings that would help you run the business, and you're able to track the business. I'm sure the staffing issue would have reduced by 60% by the next time we celebrate with Splice. On this note, thank you very much, everyone.